I can still recall the first time I met Julie on a rainy afternoon, right when I had just started my new job at her company. She was warm, humorous, and her presence seemed to light up any room. We quickly became inseparable, and before long we fell in love. Our wedding was a simple affair, with only close family and friends, exactly what Julie had envisioned, and it felt perfect. Those were the happiest days of my life. But fate can be cruel. Julie's sudden passing in an accident left me utterly shattered, lost, and heartbroken. It took years for me to heal, and just as I thought I'd never love again, I met Rachel, who brought joy back into my world. Moving on was a long, difficult process, and now as I prepare for my second marriage, I can't help but reflect on the simplicity of my wedding to Julie. This time around, Rachel wanted a grand, extravagant celebration, filled with endless details like perfectly coordinated napkins and elaborate flower arrangements. While I had little say in the matter, Rachel's mother and her friend Amber took charge of the plans, and any ideas I offered often inspired by my wedding to Julie were largely ignored. Once, I told Rachel, yes, I loved Julie deeply, and losing her was unbearable, but that doesn't mean I should forget her or pretend she never existed. Rachel had always known about my past, and that Julie would forever be a part of me. Despite the chaos of wedding planning, everything seemed settled, except for minor issues like the color of the umbrella in case of rain or the car to take us from the church. At this point, the only unresolved matters seemed beyond our control. I kept quiet about it, since everyone else seemed happy with how things were shaping up. Yet, I felt a growing need to reconnect with Rachel, who had become more distant lately. I assumed it was just the stress of the wedding. Rachel had always known about my past with Julie, helping me through my darkest moments and pulling me out of a deep depression. She had been patient even when I accidentally called her Julie during intimate moments, though this happened less frequently over time. I had grown to love Rachel deeply, perhaps as much as I had loved Julie. Still, Rachel was sensitive when I suggested she wear something similar to what Julie had worn, and she wasn't thrilled about me keeping Julie's photos up after she moved in. We also disagreed on keeping some of Julie's belongings versus Rachel's wish to redecorate. It was difficult, but we worked through it and became closer, eventually leading to my proposal. Rachel accepted, but after an unsettling pause. I had expected her to be more excited, considering how much she had pursued me. When she finally said yes, she added, "Alex, I want to marry you." But what I asked, accidentally calling her Julie again. Her expression turned pained, and I quickly corrected myself, but the damage was done. "Alex," she said tearfully, "I know you've been through a lot, but I think you still love more than one woman." I reassured her, promising that I loved only her, and after some tears, she fully accepted the proposal. Yet, a shadow seemed to hang over us from that moment on, and it was hard to tell whether it was the wedding stress or something deeper. To reconnect with Rachel, I planned a surprise wellness weekend. Her mood had been sour during the wedding preparations, and I hoped the trip would help. I promised myself I wouldn't mention Julie or any wedding details during our time away. When I told Rachel about the weekend, she smiled and kissed me, something that had become rare. "A romantic weekend?" "Oh, Alex, that's so thoughtful. Thank you," she said, pleased. Her reaction made me realize how tense I'd been, fearing rejection. Luckily, the surprise hit the mark. "Perfect, just what we needed to fix things between us," she added. I couldn't help but mention, "Yeah, the hotel is great, it even has a fantastic spa. Julie loved the seafood restaurant here, you'll see, it'll be amazing." I cursed myself for bringing up Julie again, but Rachel just gave me a strange look. We arrived early, and despite the bad weather, everything seemed perfect: the hotel, the spa, and our room. I felt hopeful this trip would bring us closer. "This room is beautiful," Alex, Rachel said, admiring the space. "Yes, and once the weather clears, you'll be able to see the lake. It's very romantic," I replied. "Oh, how do you know?" Rachel asked, her tone curious. "I've stayed in this room before," I admitted. "Oh, really?" she responded, sounding a bit surprised. "Yeah, with Julie," I added, stopping myself from saying more. Rachel looked stunned by the revelation. "You requested this room," I reminded her, trying to ease the tension. "Yes, I did," she replied, though her enthusiasm had noticeably faded. "I see," I said, frustrated. "Why did I always have to hide my past with Julie? Rachel knew I had loved her. Was it really such a big deal that we were in the same room I once shared with my late wife?" Shortly after our arrival, a snowstorm hit, and the hotel staff informed us we'd be stuck there for a few days. I didn't mind, finding the situation romantic, and I planned to enjoy the time alone with Rachel. But she seemed less enthusiastic. I just hope I can get back to work on time, she said abruptly, which irritated me. Let's grab a bite to eat. The restaurant here is great, I suggested, trying to change the subject. We sat at a nice table, one I had sat at with Julie before. Let me guess you sat here with Julie, Rachel said sarcastically. Yes, it has a nice view, I responded, trying to stay calm. Maybe I should wear a wig, she snapped. A wig, I repeated, confused. Yes, and dress like Julie, she added sharply. Rachel, stop being ridiculous, I said, growing frustrated. Alex, this has to stop, Rachel insisted firmly. You knew about my past from the beginning, I countered. Yes, but I'm not going to relive your life with her. I want to make new memories, not live in Julie's shadow, she said, her frustration clear. Rachel, Julie is part of who I am, I explained, trying to make her understand. So I have to share you with her for the rest of my life, she asked, her anger rising. That's not what I mean, I replied. Alex started to say, well, I guess I'll have to live with it, but before he could finish, Rachel snapped back, her voice sharp with frustration. If sharing is what it takes, you'd better learn how to do it too. I could see that Rachel was struggling with the situation, and in hindsight, I should have been more careful with my words. But it was a sensitive issue for me too. Before I had a chance to respond, she left the table. I decided to follow her, intending to reassure her, and found her already in line at the buffet, chatting with a tall, attractive man who seemed quite interested in her. They were laughing, touching hands, and behaving like they were a couple. Normally I don't get jealous, but this felt wrong. As they giggled and filled their plates, they sat at a small table for two, behaving like giddy teenagers. I felt a wave of discomfort but still approached them. Hi, I'm Alex, Rachel's fiancé said, extending my hand. The man completely ignored me, which hurt. Rachel giggled, clearly trying to provoke me. Rachel, what's going on? I asked. Rachel and the man, Danny, continued their conversation, laughing while I sat there, feeling humiliated. She didn't even acknowledge me or our upcoming wedding. My frustration grew as they bonded over their jobs and families. You're incredible, Rachel. I'm really glad we met, Danny said. I can't believe you're here alone, he added. Danny, I'm glad we're snowed in. It's going to be a great time, Rachel replied, openly flirting. Rachel, I shouted, trying to get her attention, but she ignored me. Then, to my shock, she leaned over and kissed him. The whole restaurant gasped, and I was left speechless. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I was livid. Rachel continued this cruel game, and when she suggested they go to his room, Danny looked surprised but willing. They left together, leaving me alone and embarrassed. I returned to our room, too stunned to think clearly. Hours passed, and my anger and hurt only grew, making me question everything about our relationship. Eventually, I went to the front desk and asked for Danny's room number. Though they couldn't tell me directly, they hinted that it was 107. I went outside, found the room, and saw them sitting on the couch together, fully clothed but cozy. I snapped a picture. They saw me, waved, and kissed again, mocking me. I took another photo before leaving, unable to watch any longer. I felt crushed, questioning everything about us. Later that night, I saw them in the restaurant, acting like a couple, hugging, kissing, and enjoying themselves. I took more pictures, then retreated to our room, ordering room service to avoid further humiliation. I waited for Rachel to return and explain herself, but she never did. Around 10 p.m., I went back to their room. The curtains were mostly drawn, but I could still see through the gaps. They were kissing again, and then things escalated. I continued taking pictures, trying to stay composed, even though it was unbearable. When they finally finished and snuggled on the couch, I left, freezing and devastated. Back in our room, I cried, pounded the bed in frustration, and uploaded the photos to my cloud. I finally fell asleep after taking some sleeping pills. The next morning, I woke up around 9 a.m. to find Rachel sitting in a chair, watching me in silence. Neither of us said a word. I wasn't angry anymore, just profoundly sad. Thoughts of what could have been filled my mind. Rachel didn't even look remorseful, just indifferent, as if she didn't realize or care about the damage she had caused. Maybe this had been her plan all along. Are you feeling better now? She asked, her tone calm. No, I'm going to spend the day with Danny until we leave. My stuff is already in his room. After that, I'll be yours again. Unless you bring up Julie, she added nonchalantly. No, I replied flatly. Enjoy yourself, she left without another word. I couldn't believe how arrogant she had become. Maybe I had misjudged her all along. She didn't want to end the relationship, just to teach me a harsh lesson. Sure, I had been careless in mentioning Julie, but her reaction was extreme. It was over between us. Stuck at the hotel, I felt trapped and humiliated, desperate to leave. My thoughts spiraled, and I knew I needed a way out. As I headed for breakfast, Michael from the front desk stopped me. "You don't have to stay here. The roads will open briefly today. Follow the supply truck, and you'll be able to leave before the next storm hits," he said. "Thank you, Michael," I responded, genuinely grateful, and tipped him generously. The prospect of escape lifted a huge burden off my shoulders. I packed up, checked out, and followed the truck to the highway without any issues. The drive home was long, and I struggled to process everything that had happened. But one thing was clear: there would be no wedding. I cancelled everything: the venue, the caterer, the DJ, and sent out simple wedding cancellation notices due to unforeseen circumstances. "We regret to inform you that our wedding has been called off." I didn't feel the need to share the details. I also reached out to the company in San Francisco that I had turned down because of Rachel. They welcomed me back. "Come here, Alex. We'll find you a place. The job is still yours," they said. "Sounds like your ex did you a favor," someone joked, but I wasn't ready to laugh about it yet. I was relieved, though. If this had happened 6 months into our marriage, it would have been far worse. The pain of losing someone I loved was real, but her betrayal made moving on easier. A new chapter in life was waiting for me. For the first time, I felt like I had truly dodged a bullet. I quit my job, packed up my car, and left our apartment on a whim. In a childish act of frustration, I even peed in her underwear drawer, though it didn't bring me the satisfaction I thought it would. The drive to San Francisco would take 4 or 5 days, and I looked forward to the solitude and time to reflect. 2 days into the trip, my phone rang. "Alex, it's Rachel." "Thank God the roads are clearing," she said. I instantly regretted answering, as all the anger came rushing back, and I stayed silent. "Alex, are you there?" she asked, her voice tense. "Yes," I replied coldly. "Did you cancel the wedding?" "My parents called," Rachel said, sounding anxious. "Of course I cancelled it. What did you expect, that I'd still marry you?" I replied, frustration clear in my voice. "Alex, please. I was just hurt about the Julie thing. I made a mistake. I'm yours now. Nothing has to change," Rachel pleaded. "Maybe, but I won't be that person," I said icily. "What?" she asked, shocked. "I don't care how you try to justify it. We're done," I said firmly. "Alex, please come get me. We need to talk," Rachel begged, her voice breaking. "No, I'm not your responsibility anymore, and I'm not in the neighborhood," I said dismissively. "Where are you?" she asked, desperate. "Kearney, Nebraska. I'm heading to California to start a new life without you," I replied resolutely. Rachel began to sob, but I hung up. When the phone rang again, I blocked her number. Though the anger still lingered, I resumed my journey. About an hour later, the phone rang again. "Alex speaking," I answered, exhausted. "Hey Alex, it's Carl, Rachel's father. Did you cancel the wedding?" Carl asked, his voice filled with concern. "Yeah, or rather, Rachel did with her actions," I replied bitterly. "What happened?" Carl asked. "She flirted with a guy right in front of me, kissed him, went to his room, and spent the weekend with him. The whole hotel saw it," I explained, my voice tinged with bitterness. Carl was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry, Alex. You're right, she's not ready for marriage. I apologize on her behalf," he said, regret evident in his tone. "No hard feelings, Carl. I always liked you and Sue," I replied, my tone softening. "What will you do now?" Carl asked. "I'm heading to San Francisco to start fresh," Alex replied. "Good luck." "Alex, you're a good man," Carl said sincerely. "Thanks, Carl." "Goodbye," Alex said, ending the call. That conversation hurt. My future had unraveled in just a matter of days. Friends called during the drive, and although I didn't go into details, most seemed to grasp that the relationship was over. After a while, the calls stopped, and I began focusing on building my new life, though it was far from easy. My thoughts kept drifting back to Rachel, the good memories, and that terrible weekend. 2 months later, on a Friday evening in San Francisco, my doorbell rang. Expecting Jehovah's Witnesses, I reluctantly opened it, but it was worse: Rachel, looking beautiful and nervous. I immediately slammed the door shut. She rang again, but I switched off the doorbell. How had she found me? Knowing I couldn't avoid her forever, I reopened the door, but she was gone. Good. The next morning, the doorbell rang once more. Still half asleep, I opened it, and there she was. Without a word, I let her in, resigned to the conversation that was bound to happen. We sat silently, sipping coffee. She had clearly put effort into looking exactly how I used to like, but I felt nothing. My emotions for her were gone, and realizing that gave me a sense of calm. Alex, she whispered, struggling to find the words. I'm sorry, I remained quiet, allowing her to continue. I'd been terrible, and it took me too long to find you. I'm sorry. You can mention Julie anytime, I'll just have to live with it. I was insecure and thought you didn't really love me, that I was just a replacement. You kept her pictures everywhere, sometimes called me Julie, and always had her in mind while planning the wedding. Even taking me to that spa where you'd been with her. It was too much, and I snapped. I'm sorry, I nodded, understanding, but replied, I should have been more considerate, but none of that excuses humiliating me and cheating on me. I know, she said, tears filling her eyes. I regret it every day. We sat there, unsure of what to say next. How did you find me? I asked. Our mutual friends know your address, but none of them wanted to tell me. I tricked one of them by borrowing their phone, she admitted. I was glad my friends had my back. I gave up our apartment and quit my job. I'm renting a place nearby and looking for work, she added. Her news didn't make me happy, it just meant she'd be around, making things harder. Still, I felt strong enough to resist her. Alex, I know I hurt you at the hotel. I did it on purpose, humiliating you in front of everyone. I pushed you away, and you had no choice but to leave. At first, I didn't understand why I did it. I loved you then, and I still do. Danny didn't matter to me. He was attractive. But I didn't even like him. I tried to convince myself it was about teaching you a lesson, but deep down, I just wanted to hurt you. So, what was the real reason? Alex asked, his voice calm but curious. My dad thinks it was jealousy, Rachel admitted softly. Jealous of a dead woman? Alex asked, surprised. You always talked about Julie like she was perfect, the most beautiful, flawless woman. I felt like I couldn't compete with her. I was so intimidated by her memory that I didn't even want to accept your proposal, even though that was my dream, Rachel confessed, her voice breaking. Rachel, I'm sorry if I made you feel that way, Alex said, a note of sympathy in his tone. Julie wasn't perfect, and we had our fights, but I didn't think it was right to bring up those things after she passed. I didn't mean to put her on a pedestal in front of you. Oh, Alex, Rachel sobbed, lunging toward him for comfort. Wait, Alex stopped her gently. You might have been able to compete with her in the past, but now my view of you has changed, he added softly. Alex, she whispered through her tears, give me a chance to prove you wrong. I'll be patient. I'll stay by your side until you trust me again. You can still talk about Julie, I'll learn to live with it. I don't know. It's not that simple, Alex replied, shaking his head. I'll do whatever it takes, no matter how long it takes, Rachel pleaded, her determination growing. Quite the speech, Rachel. I believe you, Alex said, though his neutral tone left her confused. How do you feel about me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I still care for you. I haven't been with anyone since that night. I think I've mostly forgotten you. I'm not angry anymore, Alex admitted. But I don't love you either. Rachel flinched at his words, but quickly composed herself. That's bad, but I can work with it. You loved me once, maybe you'll fall for me again. Rachel, I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Your reaction was so extreme. What's next? If I forget to take out the trash, are you going to hire a hitman? Trust isn't even on the table for me right now. I swear I'll never be that stupid again. If we get back together, I'll sign a contract. If you leave me, I get nothing. No money, no kids, nothing, she said. Kids? Alex asked, surprised. Yes, if we ever reconcile. Here's the contract, she said, handing him a document. Alex was stunned by how harsh it was. If they broke up, she'd receive nothing, not even visitation rights. He doubted it was even legal. Did Carl help you write this? Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah, is it that obvious? Rachel replied, a bit embarrassed. Well, I don't want to be with you because of a contract. The main issue is that I don't love you, I don't trust you, and I'm not even sure I like you, Alex said firmly. That last comment seemed to sting. I don't even like myself, Rachel admitted softly. I understand that. You hurt me deeply for no reason, Alex said, shaking his head. Alex, how about this? Show me around San Francisco. We can just be friends, and you can see how things go, Rachel suggested, trying to find middle ground. Alex paused, considering her offer. He wondered if avoiding Rachel would feel like running away, which might seem weak. The truth was, he still liked her, even if he didn't trust her, and he didn't want to hide. Plus, he had no friends in San Francisco, so her company might be a welcome distraction. Spending time with her could also prove to him that he was truly over her. I don't know the city that well, but I can show you what I know, Alex finally said. Thanks, Alex, Rachel said, smiling as she headed to the kitchen to make breakfast, humming confidently. Alex didn't mind her being around, but he knew there was no chance of them getting back together, contract or no contract, or... Over the next few weeks, Rachel eagerly sought Alex's attention, often wearing revealing outfits and finding excuses to touch him. One time, while wearing a loose t-shirt, she kept leaning forward, practically offering a view of her cleavage. Alex wasn't interested, though. He looked anywhere but at her chest, smiling inwardly as she tried harder to catch his eye. Eventually, he left the room to avoid laughing. Another time, she wore shorts so tiny they resembled a bikini bottom paired with high heels. She spent the day bending over in front of him, pretending to search for something. "Rachel, are you looking for something?" "Need help?" Alex asked, raising an eyebrow. "No, I'm fine. I just thought I lost an earring," she replied, obviously frustrated. When they went shopping together, Rachel found every excuse to press her body against Alex, but he acted as if he didn't notice, enjoying the irony of her frustration. It was clear she was attracted to him, but he continued rejecting her advances, probably bruising her ego. Alex felt a bit sorry for her, but he wasn't going to sleep with her just to boost her self-esteem. Her attempts to win him back in such superficial ways weren't working. Weeks later, as they sat in Alex's living room, Rachel's flirtation had noticeably decreased. Out of the blue, she asked bluntly, "Alex, when are you going to entertain me again?" What Alex asked, taken aback by her directness, though he knew exactly what she was implying. "You know you can have me, right? Just for fun, no strings attached. I'm on the pill, clean and free," she said, her tone suggestive. Alex wasn't sure how to let her down gently. She was beautiful, but she was still the same Rachel who had told him, "It's already decided. Try to enjoy it." While he was lost in thought, she took off her sweater, revealing a t-shirt with large text that read, "Alex's girlfriend." She turned around to show him the same words printed on the back. "Nice, huh?" She smiled. "Yes," Alex replied, still shocked. "I bought 20 of these. I plan to wear them everywhere. I know it's not true yet, but I want to show my commitment. However, I need your approval to wear them in public," she said, her eyes sparkling with hope. Alex shook his head. "That's not possible. Let's just be friends." "Okay," her face fell, and her eyes watered, but she held herself together. "Okay, Alex, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push. I'm just surprised you even let me spend time with you again. But that's all I'm willing to ask for," she said, visibly disappointed. "I understand," she added. "Alex, I have time. I don't have any other plans. I'll keep trying to win you back. I'll be patient. You can even talk about Julie if you want. I'll learn to live with it," she said. Alex sighed, unsure how to respond. He didn't want to hurt Rachel or take revenge, but he also didn't want her clinging to false hope. Still, she stuck around, clearly wanting more, though she didn't push too hard. Her hopes were high, but Alex remained firm in his decision not to restart their relationship. He told her as much, but it didn't stop her from trying. One night, Alex came home late and was frustrated because the light in his hallway was out again. Stumbling in the dark, he accidentally kicked something soft. Using his phone's flashlight, he saw a small woman curled up on the floor. Confused, he carried her inside. She was dirty but didn't seem sick, so he put her in the guest room, covered her with blankets, and went to bed. In the middle of the night, he woke up unexpectedly, not from his alarm, but from something pleasant. He should have told her to stop, but all he could manage was a weak, they were intimate, and before he knew it, she had disappeared back into the guest room. It was over as quickly as it started, leaving him wondering if it had even happened. The next morning, Alex heard her humming in the shower. She was thin, but had a pretty face and seemed calm while eating breakfast. They didn't discuss the previous night at all. After eating, she got dressed, said, "You're a nice guy," and left without a trace. Alex was stunned. He had just slept with a woman whose name he didn't even know. Later, when he found a needle in the trash, a chill ran down his spine. Panic set in as he realized they hadn't used protection. He went to the doctor immediately, who told him he didn't have any detectable STDs but needed to wait for some results. Alex vowed to think before acting next time. Meanwhile, Rachel continued to pursue him, though Alex couldn't imagine getting back together with her. He still found her attractive, but the love he once felt was gone. Wisely, Rachel kept her talk about marriage and kids to a minimum, knowing too much pressure would push him away. They spent time together as friends, and while she hoped for more, Alex knew it was never going to happen. Months later, as Rachel and Alex were about to have dinner, the doorbell rang. Rachel jumped up to answer, always eager to assert herself, as if she was still his partner. Alex let her, knowing he'd been keeping her around for companionship without ever fully explaining that they wouldn't get back together. Despite her beauty and the fact that she could have been with someone else, Rachel remained determined to win him over. When the door opened, Alex turned to see the woman he had met months earlier. She still looked thin, but now her stomach was noticeably large. Rachel seemed surprised but quickly understood the situation. "Please, come in," Rachel said quietly. "Join us for dinner." "I'm Rachel," she introduced herself. Annie, the woman, mumbled, not interested in small talk. Annie sat down without hesitation and began eating. "I'm pregnant," she said bluntly, confirming what they had both suspected. "It's yours," she added, pointing her fork at Alex. He stared at the steak on her fork, trying to process what she had just said. "You're the only one I've had unprotected sex with," she continued, as if she were talking about the weather. Alex was too shocked to respond. Rachel, however, remained calm. "Really?" The only one, Alex muttered in disbelief. "That's hard to believe, nevertheless. It's true," Annie replied, unbothered. "Don't worry, I want to work things out. I like you, and I don't want any trouble. Funny thing is, I don't even know your name." "I'm Alex," he said weakly. "Nice to meet you. It was fun having sex with you," she grinned. Rachel even chuckled a bit. "Alex, you slept with her without knowing her name?" Rachel asked, surprisingly calm. "Yeah, I guess so," Alex admitted. "So, what now? Are you considering abortion?" Rachel asked. "No, it's too late. I've seen the ultrasounds, it's a baby now, and I can't end her life," Annie replied, her tone more serious. Without skipping a beat, Rachel said, "No problem. We'll adopt her." What? Alex dropped his fork, completely stunned. Rachel turned to him. "Shut up, Alex. This is a woman's issue. This could have been my baby if I hadn't messed up." Alex tried to speak, but Rachel was already taking charge of the situation. Annie nodded, agreeing with Rachel's suggestion. "You can't raise a baby while using drugs," Rachel said firmly. Annie hesitated, then admitted, "You're right. I've been on hard substances for a while, and I'm not sure I can stop, even for my baby. My life's a mess." The mood grew more serious. Rachel stayed composed. "Keeping you off drugs will be Alex's job. You'll stay here, get clean, and after the baby is born, I'll adopt her. Then you're free." Annie thought for a moment before agreeing. "Okay, deal." Rachel extended her hand and Annie shook it. Just like that, my future was decided for me. I stood up and started clearing the dishes while the two women planned out my life. Annie was set to stay in the guest room, and Rachel began staying over more often. Though Rachel hinted we'd be a couple again, I kept quiet, thankful for her help but uncomfortable with the way things were going. The next morning, we moved Annie's belongings from her old place to my apartment. Her previous place was so rough, I wouldn't have even parked my car there. "Wow, you've been through a lot," Alex asked while helping her pack. "Yeah, and it's about to get worse," she replied with a smirk. "Hey, I'm not that bad," Alex joked, trying to lighten the mood. "Ever heard of going cold turkey?" she asked, her tone becoming serious. "Not the food, right?" Alex quipped. "Nope, get your guest room ready. There's going to be vomiting, and it'll be hell," she said bluntly. "Well, hopefully our daughter will appreciate it one day," she added with an ironic smile. "Our daughter," Alex corrected, surprising even himself with the words. "Really?" she asked, tears filling her eyes. "Our daughter," Alex repeated, more firmly this time. "You're not alone." "Oh, Alex, thank you," she said, hugging him tightly, though Alex noticed her wary glance toward Rachel. Later, she asked, "Do you have any vacation time left? I can take 2 weeks unpaid," Alex responded. "The first 3 days will be the worst," she warned. "What should I expect?" Alex asked, bracing himself. "All the fun stuff," she said sarcastically. "Vomiting, sweating, shaking, screaming at you, trying to escape." "I'll hate you, got it," Alex said, resigned to the challenge ahead, and that's exactly how it unfolded. Twice, she nearly escaped while he was cleaning the bathroom. He ended up with scrapes and bruises, and the room was trashed. She screamed a lot, but they made it through those first 3 days. By then, Alex was well acquainted with all her bodily functions, none of which were remotely pleasant. Exhausted, he sat by her bed, staring at the trembling, vomit-covered mess she had become. He didn't feel noble, just tired and dirty, helping a woman he had recklessly gotten pregnant. The entire situation was awkward, gross, and depressing. He had grown so accustomed to the smell of vomit that it barely registered anymore. Her erratic sleep schedule had left him equally sleep-deprived. A few hours later, she was up and pacing again. "The worst is over. I need to be alone now. I'll take a walk." "Anna, you can't leave yet." 2 weeks, then you're free," Alex said. "Let me go," she screamed. "No." "Anna," she switched to pleading. "Please, I need something to ease the pain. How about we get something to eat?" Alex suggested, trying to calm her. Okay, she said, but then made a sudden run for the door. Luckily, she couldn't open it, it pushed instead of pulled. After that, Alex made sure to keep it locked for safety. A few days later, she was looking much better. Her eyes had cleared up, and she seemed to have regained some composure. She was sweating and shivering less, though still too thin. Now that her hair wasn't greasy, and her skin didn't look as oily, her beauty was beginning to re-emerge. What concerned Alex, however, was her emotional instability and growing attachment. He wasn't sure if it was the pregnancy or the withdrawal causing it, but she started constantly touching him, hugging and kissing him, except for the time she was sitting in the corner, either crying or laughing. Alex couldn't fully distance himself from her emotional swings. When she was sad, it hurt him when she acted goofy. He joined in when she was clingy. He found himself enjoying the attention from this pretty woman. And when she became suddenly turned on, well, you can imagine what happened next. Before long, they were back in bed together, their encounter fueled by raw need and desire. Alex hadn't realized how much he wanted her until that moment, and it was clear she felt the same way. Somehow, enduring the withdrawal symptoms, vomiting, shaking, screaming had brought them closer. Despite promising himself not to make the same mistake again, Alex found himself having unprotected sex with her once more. At least this time she couldn't get pregnant again. Oddly, he never felt like he was with someone he barely knew. In fact, she was quite shy, even shedding a few tears afterward, clinging to him like a burr. Alex didn't mind, not one bit. They sat on the bed afterward, him feeling content and still somewhat surprised. "So, I guess you don't hate me as much anymore?" her Alex asked. "Don't be so sure, mister, that was still my bad side. Wait until you see me at my best," she teased. "No, really, I think I've conquered my demons. I'm starting to think clearly again. And no, I never hated you. You were just trying to help me and our baby, and I'm grateful for that." She smiled playfully, and Alex found her incredibly charming. She was getting more attractive by the day, and if this continued, he'd have to fend off other men with a stick. Wait, what Alex thought. Why do I feel like I need to protect her? Do I actually think she's mine? Unsure how to deal with these emotions, Alex resorted to his usual strategy: procrastination. In the following weeks, the household became a bit more relaxed. Alex and Annie grew closer, their shared ordeal creating an unexpected bond. Being sick and dealing with her withdrawal had somehow drawn them together. Without the burden of playing the prison warden, they started to laugh more, and yes, continued having sex. Alex noticed a few lingering glances from Annie that suggested she might be feeling the same way, and he realized he was starting to look at her differently too. Of course, Rachel still visited regularly, and she wasn't oblivious to the growing closeness between Alex and Annie. "Alex, you're not falling in love with her, are you?" Rachel asked one day. "I'm not sure, Rachel. We're definitely getting closer," he admitted. Rachel looked shocked. "Alex, don't do this to me. I feel like I'm so close to getting you back. Don't let me lose you to her." "Rachel, you know the situation," Alex said, trying to diffuse the tension. Yes, I know. I'm not asking for anything. Do whatever you want, but I haven't given up. I'm going to keep fighting for you, even if it takes years," Rachel said, clearly upset, but still determined. Alex sighed, letting the subject drop, as Annie walked into the room. Rachel was struggling, but Alex was starting to see Annie as more than just someone he was helping. He was viewing her as his girlfriend now, and being a one-woman man, that was a big shift for him. As their bond grew deeper, Alex made sure she stayed clean, accompanied her to doctor's appointments, and prepared for their baby by buying supplies. They started behaving like a typical couple, and to Alex, it felt completely natural. When their daughter Mel was born, everything became even clearer. Annie, Mel, and Alex were a family, there was no doubt about it anymore. The idea of giving Mel up for adoption seemed absurd now. Of course they would keep her. Rachel noticed all these changes during her frequent visits. One day, she finally confronted Alex. "I've lost you forever, haven't I?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "Yes, Rachel. What we had is over, Alex, please." She sobbed. "This isn't fair. I know I messed up that weekend, but I did everything I could to make things right. Doesn't that count for anything?" "I don't know if it's fair." Alex began. "I'm committed to you entirely, but you were the one who pushed us apart for no real reason. That left us both free to be with others, and that's what happened. It's not about fairness. And it wasn't intentional. There's no set consequence for what you did that weekend. You threw a grenade between us, and you never know which way the blast will go. For me, it led to Annie." Rachel was openly sobbing now. Alex walked over and wrapped his arms around her. Rachel, you're still young and beautiful. Go find the right guy, and please don't ever make a mistake like that again. Okay, no, Alex, I'll wait for you, she insisted. No, don't. There was nothing else Alex could do. He sighed. She was right, it was tragic that she had chosen to throw her life away, but he couldn't stop her. That's how things ended with Rachel. It was sad, because he had once loved her, and they could have had a great life together. But now he didn't love her anymore, and she didn't love him either. Alex had already fallen for Anna. No, he realized he was completely in love with her, the awkward, innocent charm she had, her sweet face, and her total devotion to him. She adored him. The biggest difference between Rachel and Anna was that Alex actually trusted Anna, which was strange. He could trust a former pill user and prostitute, but not his ex-wife, who had only been reckless for one weekend. The next few years brought a small, simple wedding, raising Mel, Rachel's disappearance thankfully, and no relapses with pills. Life with Anna wasn't always easy, she still had her intense mood swings, but by then, Alex knew her well enough to handle it. Their deep love for each other helped them get through those moments. Mel was amazing, with Alex wrapped around her little finger. Everything started falling apart after Mel's second birthday. Alex had just put her to bed while Anna was out shopping. Mel had worn him out again, and he collapsed on the couch, ready to zone out in front of the TV as usual. Just as he sat down, the doorbell rang. Annoyed, he got up and opened the door to find 2 policemen standing there. "Good evening. How can I help you?" Alex asked. "Good evening, Mr. Spencer. I'm Sergeant Jacobs." "Are you married to Anna Spencer?" "Yeah." "What's wrong?" Alex replied, suddenly feeling uneasy. "Mr. Spencer, I'm very sorry to inform you that we found your wife deceased. Would you please come with us?" Alex didn't understand the rest. He collapsed. He had kissed her goodbye just 2 hours ago. Was that the last time he and Mel would ever see her alive? Was she really never coming back? Would he never hear her laugh again, never kiss her, never hear her swear when she stepped on his foot, never feel her snuggle into him, never smell her scent again? "Annie, where are you? What happened? Why?" After what felt like forever, a policeman shook him gently. "Mr. Spencer, are you okay? Should we call an ambulance?" No, I'm fine. It turned out she had died from a massive overdose of hard substances." Alex had no idea she was still using. One of the officers casually mentioned he knew her, that she worked part-time as a prostitute and had too much experience with pills to make such a fatal mistake. They were certain she had taken her own life. Alex was stunned. He realized he didn't really know her. She had been living a double life. Within days, Alex was shattered, unable to work, struggling to care for Mel. A week after her death, Alex sat on the couch again, staring blankly at the TV, crying occasionally, feeling lost and unable to cope emotionally or practically. Mel was crying again. It had become a constant. Losing Anna had destroyed him and left him with a mountain of practical issues. His time off was almost up, and he needed to go back to work. How would he take care of Mel? He had no family nearby, no one to turn to. Could he hire a babysitter? Could he even trust anyone? Most of the people he had trusted had betrayed him in some way, even Anna. Thinking back, she had loved him, but she had also deceived him. She had lived a secret life as a prostitute and pill user while he was at work or traveling for business. Now, she had left him and Mel without a word or explanation. Ding dong. The doorbell rang, pulling him from his thoughts. It had been ringing for a while. Mel was still crying, and Alex felt utterly overwhelmed by Anna's death, by Mel's constant crying, by the weight of everything. He had tried to feed Mel and failed again, unable to rock her to sleep. He felt helpless. Ding dong. The door or Mel? He didn't know what to do with Mel, but the door gave him a task. He could walk over, open it, and see who was there. So he did, and immediately regretted it. "No, please, no more complications. Life's hard enough as it is," he muttered. It was Rachel. No was all Alex could manage to say. "You look awful." "I'm so sorry, Alex. It must have been terrible," she said softly, stepping in and hugging him. Strangely, Alex felt nothing. After 2 years apart, this was the woman he had almost married, yet he felt absolutely nothing. Shouldn't he feel something? Anger, sadness, anything? But there was only awkward indifference, or maybe he was just too exhausted to care. Rachel didn't seem to notice. She finally let go and carried the large bag she had with her into Mel's room. "Hey, Alex," weakly protested, following her, too tired to stop her. Rachel picked up Mel from the bed, gently rocked her, and hummed a soft tune. To Alex's amazement, Mel began to calm down. Soon, she was completely content, which astonished him. Rachel carefully laid Mel back in bed, covered her, and then headed straight to the kitchen, as if she lived there, unloading her bags and preparing food for Mel. "How did you Alex started? I've read all about it," she replied. "What? When I heard about Anna's death, I knew right away that you'd be struggling, Alex," she said, matter-of-factly, though Alex noticed her stealing quick glances in his direction, her calm demeanor betraying her real emotions. "Do you still live in the neighborhood?" Alex asked. "Of course. I never moved. And no, I'm not dating anyone. Yes, I've been watching you. No, I haven't been with another man since that weekend when I ruined everything," she said, turning to face him, tears welling in her eyes. "Yes, I still love you," she whispered before quickly leaving the room. Alex followed her back to Mel's room, watching as she effortlessly rocked and fed the baby. Damn, why wasn't Mel crying? Every time I tried, it was loud enough for the whole neighborhood to hear, Alex thought. Rachel handled Mel with ease. She had clearly come prepared. After a while, Rachel turned to Alex again. "So, what's your plan, Alex? I'll take care of you," she continued before he could respond. "I'll always be here for you, always. I stayed out of the way during your marriage so I wouldn't interfere, but now that you're struggling, I have to step in." That was quite the declaration. This woman had clearly decided to dedicate herself to him. But was it love or guilt driving her? Could guilt push someone to wait 2 years and then rush to help like this? "What do you mean?" Alex asked, feeling more confused than ever. "I quit my job," she announced. "You?" what Alex asked, shocked. "How else can I take care of you and Mel? You need a full-time nanny, and Mel needs me too," she explained, smiling. To Alex's surprise, he found himself laughing for the first time in what felt like forever. She was right. "Have you eaten anything?" Rachel asked, concerned. "Since when?" Alex replied. "Since Anna died," she said softly. "I don't remember," Alex admitted. "All right, Mel's fed, now it's your turn. Just sit on the couch," she instructed. Alex did as she said, sitting down and realizing how grateful he was for her presence. Having someone to talk to, someone to fend off the loneliness and helplessness, was an immense relief. He could hear Rachel rattling pots and pans in the kitchen. After a while, Rachel came back with a plate of food. "Feeling better?" she asked, handing it to him. "Yes, less lonely. And you're right, I do need help with Mel, thank you. But what about your job?" Alex asked, still trying to take it all in. "Alex, for the last 2 years, I haven't had much of a life. I didn't go out or spend much. I mostly stayed in my apartment. The only thing I spent money on was the gym," she explained. "You? The gym?" Alex asked, surprised. "Yeah, I wanted to. Well, I'll explain later," she said, blushing slightly. "Anyway, I've saved up quite a bit. I can live for almost a year without working. We'll figure things out before then," she assured him. "Oh," Alex replied, feeling like he'd been handed a lifeline but unsure of how to respond. "Yes, I'll take care of you. In a year, you'll know what direction your life is headed. Maybe you'll meet someone new or reconsider other options," she said with a small smile. "Oh, I need to check on dinner." The meal turned out delicious, and Alex thanked her repeatedly. Afterward, he felt the overwhelming urge to just collapse into bed and sleep for a week, but Rachel wasn't having it. "Oh no, mister, you're not going to bed without a shower and brushing your teeth," she teased. "Yes, Mum," Alex joked, and she gave him a playful nudge in the ribs. She was right, though his hygiene had been awful lately. When he stepped out of the shower, he found his bed freshly made. It struck him that Anna had been the last one to make it, and the thought brought a wave of sadness as he climbed under the covers. Rachel stood nearby with a kind smile, but Alex couldn't stop thinking about Anna. Had their love been real? Could you truly love someone you didn't completely know? Clearly she hadn't trusted him enough to tell him everything. Soon after, Alex drifted off into a peaceful sleep, something he hadn't done since Anna's death. The next morning, he woke up to breakfast waiting on the nightstand, surprised he had slept through the night. That was something that hadn't happened since it all began. How had Rachel managed to keep Mel quiet? She wasn't just determined to help him, she was actually good at it. As Alex ate, he felt a sense of comfort he hadn't experienced in weeks. A little while later, Rachel entered the room, humming happily, holding a sleeping Mel in her arms. She made it all seem so effortless. Could a baby really adapt so quickly without her mother? One thing was certain, Alex couldn't move on from Anna as easily. He was still grieving, still reeling from her death and the hidden life she had led. It hurt deeply, but he was grateful for Rachel's help, even though he didn't yet feel any strong affection for her. "Feeling better?" she asked, sitting beside him. "Physically, yes, thanks to you. Emotionally, I'm still in shock. I don't understand how all this happened." "Are you talking about Anna's death?" she asked softly. "About everything, her death, the sudden changes. It all makes me feel like I'm just drifting. If you want me to move out, I will, Rachel said quietly. I don't want to impose. No, don't. You're helping me a lot. Please stay, Alex responded. She nodded, and Alex noticed a tear escape from her eye. A few days later, Alex went back to work, confident that Rachel could handle everything. She was wonderful with Mel, managing both the baby and Alex's emotional state while also giving him space when needed. She never tried to kiss him but would offer comforting hugs when he was feeling down, exactly what he needed. About 2 months after Anna's death, Rachel approached him. Alex, I need to visit my parents this weekend. Can you manage a few days alone? She asked. That's when Alex realized he didn't want her to go. It wasn't for practical reasons he needed her presence, and that confused him. When Rachel noticed, she smiled and exclaimed, yes, she hugged him, and in that moment Alex realized he still loved her. The feeling had been buried under all the stress, but it was still there. Rachel kissed him for the first time in years, and Alex hadn't realized how much he had needed that. Everything felt right again, even if only for that moment. The intimacy that followed was a bit awkward, but neither of them cared. Afterward, Rachel made Alex promise, just don't hurt me again. Never, Rachel. Never again, Alex assured her. They had both been through so much, but it wasn't for nothing. They had Mel, and Alex vowed to be the best partner he could be. Good, Rachel said. You can handle the weekend alone, but don't get used to it. From now on, this is our home and will be a family. Life started to settle down. Mel began calling Rachel Mummy, and they decided not to tell her the truth until she was older, if they ever told her at all. They were happy with the way things were. One day, Rachel came to Alex and said, Alex, I love Mel as if she were my own, but I want to have our baby. I was so jealous of Annie. Let's do it, Alex said without hesitation. Rachel became emotional, clearly surprised by his quick response. Alex didn't see an issue. They were already a family. Do you trust me enough to have a baby with me? He asked. Yes, she replied, pressing herself against him, softly crying. Thank you for asking, Alex. I'd never trick you, she said, looking into his eyes. I know, so let's start, Alex replied. I just need to stop taking the pill, but we can start practicing right now. Rachel said with a mischievous smile, and that's exactly what they did. That night, they finished a special dinner Alex had insisted on cooking. He had gone all out: candles, a white tablecloth, and a 3-course meal. Rachel was pleasantly surprised, but seemed a bit nervous during dinner. Alex didn't usually go to such lengths, and she was beginning to suspect something. He needed to act fast if he wanted to keep the surprise a secret. He walked around the table and got down on one knee. Her jaw dropped as Alex fumbled in his pocket. Rachel, he said softly. Yes, she asked, eyes wide. Would you? Yes, yes, Alex, yes. Of course, I'll marry you, she blurted out, her joy overflowing before he could even finish. Alex went silent, pulling her into a passionate kiss as they both fell back, her pregnant belly between them. Thank you, Rachel, Alex said, still amazed by the moment. Are you kidding me? Thanking me? I should be thanking you. And I'll keep thanking you for the rest of my life, she said, her eyes glowing. You know, we still have that contract, Alex teased. Yes, but I don't think I'll need it, she smiled. You won't, Alex reassured her. Oh, and Rachel, one more thing. It's about Mel, he began cautiously. She needs a mother, but she already has one, Rachel said, her voice softening. Yes, but not legally, I reminded her. Rachel turned to look at me, and to my surprise, tears welled up in her eyes. God, you're lucky today, she said through her sobs, and you'll be lucky for the rest of your life. Suddenly, I was pulled back into the present moment. I was lounging by the pool in our backyard while my beautiful wife, Rachel, kept casting warm glances at me as I played with our son. Our wedding had been small, timed perfectly for my father to witness it before he lost his battle with cancer. Before the ceremony, I had been on edge, waiting for any sign of Rachel's old erratic behavior resurfacing. But she had sensed my concerns and simply smiled. It's not coming back, Alex. Not this time. I've learned my place, she said with quiet assurance. She was right. I just hope marriage is less complicated for others. I always knew it would be a challenge, but Rachel and I had definitely experienced a version of marriage that was a little over the top. Dear readers, if you've made it this far, the story ends here. What follows is an alternate conclusion for those who prefer quick resolutions. It makes no sense and doesn't connect with the rest of the story. I just assume these readers enjoy simpler endings. It's over, Rachel. I did love you, but you've completely shattered my feelings for you, no, she screamed. Alex, I can fix this. Please give me another chance. I know I messed up, but I've learned my lesson, and I love only you. It's too late, Rachel, I said coldly. And by the way, your lover Denny tried to confront me. He clearly had no clue about my Navy SEAL background. Oh no, Alex. Did you hurt him badly? Rachel asked, her voice shaking. But you can't have him anymore, came a voice from behind. Rachel spun around in shock. And who are you? She demanded. I'm Sasha, Alex's new fiancée, the woman said confidently. She was a few years younger than Rachel and looked like a supermodel. And since I own an international private investigation firm, we've already gathered all the evidence we need. If you're not careful, that video of your ménage à trois will be all over the internet. You're done, Rachel. No, Rachel screamed, her voice rising like the roar of a jet engine. Yes, Sasha continued, undeterred. You had a good man and you threw him away. Now he's mine, and by the way, I'm pregnant with his twins. Enjoy the rest of your life, Rachel. Rachel stood frozen, realizing just how foolish she had been to treat Alex the way she had.